Welcome to the Bleep Bulimia podcast with guest Tasha Golding with Beyond Rules Recovery. Hi, everyone. I am Lori Ann. I'm the host of Bleep Bulimia. And today I'm so pleased to have Tasha Golding, and she is with Beyond Rules Recovery. And last episode, as you know, we had Shira on. So this is going to be very nice to have Tasha on here because she's got a wonderful story as well. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we'll start off, as we always do. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I grew up in Colorado, and I have a twin sister, and I would say that my eating disorder definitely started around the age of 12, and it actually started out more as like ARFID. So I went through a phase where I was really afraid of throwing up, and after getting the stomach, like a really bad case of the stomach flu. And so I started being afraid to eat after a certain time because of that reasoning. And it wasn't so much more wrapped around like my body size. And, I slowly was able to get myself out of that hole. And it also soon morphed into like my weight and what I looked like and what other people saw me as. I was a gymnast. I was actually a figure skater for 5 years, and I started gymnastics when I was 11. And the more competitive I got, the more it was centered around weight and what you looked like and how much strength you had. I had some really tough coaches in middle school or in high school that really put an emphasis on weight. And I was the oldest on my team by about 2 years, so there was a significant difference between a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. So that's when it started to morph more into like the struggling with more food and body image and weight and all of that. I didn't really start. I was starting to engage in symptoms, but not so much to the point where it was concerning or that I would have even comprehended that I had an eating disorder. But it wasn't until I got to college that things just really got out of control. With my sister, also developed an eating disorder. My mom had an eating disorder my whole childhood. And once I got to college, I really didn't know how to eat because I was rigidly eating my entire life because of the way that my mom talked about food and gave us food. And so it really, I didn't know how to eat. I was presented with all of this food that was, considered bad or unhealthy, but like all the food that I wanted to eat as a kid. And so I was lost. And so, things really started to get worse my freshman year of college. I did gymnastics in college, so I had a solid support system with my team. But I had a coach who was on me a lot. He was told by another teammate about what was going on with me, and so he kind of gave me some guidelines and was like, okay, listen, we want you to stay on the team, but this has to happen or this has to happen. So I started going to therapy. I started seeing a dietitian, just to follow that guideline that he gave me if I wanted to stay competing. And so that kind of kept me afloat for college. I would say that my senior year, I found the hobby of hot yoga. After it was like not an intentional thing. It was like we were really cold in a January night. And we were like, let's go to hot yoga. But it was like I was hooked immediately. And I was still practicing, I was still competing, but it was like I all of a sudden found something that I loved outside of gymnastics. And so that made me happy because I was going to have something after gymnastics. But then I started, that's when like the over exercising really started happening was, I was really dipping into restriction my senior year, but then the exercising started to kick in as well. So I would say my senior year of college was a really tough one. And, like I said, my coach's guidelines really kept me afloat for my season. But as soon as my season ended and my career was over, I mean, everything broke loose. And I really started struggling with over exercising and, you know, rigidly tracking my food and all of that. And the hot yoga I kept using as like, oh, this is like my new thing. Like, I'm really good at it. People like are inspired by like my ability to do handstands. And I mean, it went on like that for about 5 years. And, you know, I went through teacher training for like 2 different kinds of formats, and just like using that as a way to keep me fulfilled. But in reality, that part of me was my eating disorder. And I don't think I really realized that back then. You know, I went to treatment both starting my senior year, from my senior year until I was 27, really. I was in and out of treatment. You know, trying to get help. I really wanted to get better, but I think I just didn't have the motivation to. I didn't have the motivation to let go of the fact that like exercise was a problem. And
That's
the
interesting.
more,
So
yeah,
exercising was a part, like this is new and I
yes,
don't mean to interject on this, but
no,
it's really interesting that, you know, we have like the anorexia and the bulimia, but we don't really put into that as well, the restriction and the exercise, which I know is out there, but we really haven't
yeah,
had anyone discuss that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that form of reward, but it's a different kind of reward, right? Like,
Mhm.
so
I know, and it's so missed in our society because people praise like, I mean, I had many people coming up to me, they're like, oh, you took two yoga classes today? Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Like, good for you. But like, that's not okay.
it's so
So,
true. It's just like when you know, when you lose weight, people sit there and
yeah,
go, okay, I have a really
crazy.
funny story though. They go, oh my goodness, you look so amazing. Because I went from 170 to 130
Yeah.
through my eating disorder. And then you look great. There was one guy though that says, no, he goes, you don't look great. And excuse all these women up there, I'm gonna say it because you lost your boobs.
Yeah.
And of course he liked larger girls. He didn't
Yeah.
think slim was attractive. And I thought that that was really neat, but I never, you know, you never think about it because
No.
society's telling you, oh, all men like thin women or all
Right.
women like thin men.
Yeah.
It's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And it's
So,
so, I mean, diet culture is a real thing.
yeah.
And it really, I mean, it's totally, if you give me that topic to rant on for 20 minutes, like I would just go on about diet culture and how it's so messed up and how everyone, I mean, how many people I went to yoga with, you know, I got into CrossFit right before I found Living Proof, or now Beyond Rules Recovery. And it's just incredible at how much the diet culture is just totally ingrained in almost every single part of life. And how, you know, these places that are supposed to be, you know, have you, that you're trying to find like joyful movement and community and connection, soon turn to this like idea of competition and who can do more, who can lift more, who can run more, who can do walk on their hands more. And it's like, it all of a sudden it's like joyful movement turned,
Competition. It's not
yeah,
joyful anymore. It's like who can do better. It's
yeah,
horrible to say too, and listeners, I really feel for, but there is even competition in whose eating disorders are worse.
yes, I know,
And
especially in treatment.
I feel bad because it sometimes if you're in a group, which I was
Hmm.
in, and you get that, and you don't want to compete, you just want to get better, it is a discouraging moment where you walk away, go, I can't go back there again.
Yeah,
Because I mean, oh my goodness, my life is so much better than that person. So
I
I don't
know.
belong here. So I don't negate that in as far as discussing it. As you said, you have to be ready to get better. And if you're
Right.
in a group and you're not ready to let go of it, it can discourage the other people.
Yeah.
Does that
Oh,
make sense?
definitely. It
Yeah,
can be like, can be very dangerous for
yeah,
both parties, really.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's great to get the attention, but the attention is a negative attention and it has to
I
be
know.
turned over to a positive one.
Right. I mean, it's like Shira and I talk about this all the time. Like, imagine how much more you could do and be successful at if you weren't so focused on being praised on like your weight or how you eat, or, you know, like there is so much more in this world that you could be proud of, like completing school or getting this job or opening your business. Like, I mean, imagine the possibilities.
Or just being happy with yourself and loving yourself.
Yeah.
You sit there, go, really, you love yourself? Yeah, like I do. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the person who was born with me. I'm the person who's going to go away with me. I'm the only person here with me all the time. I better
Right.
like me, because if I
Right.
don't, that's a horrible lifestyle to live if you don't like yourself, because you
I
can't get away from
know.
yourself. Doesn't matter where you move.
And it
It's
literally
you.
prevents, right, it prevents you from doing everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I want to move on a little bit to you
Yeah.
were saying you're 20 months in recovery and you found Shira and her group, and now you're working with them. I think that's a beautiful story. You're a great testimonial
Yeah.
to Beyond Rules
Yes.
recovery. I don't know why I put discovery, but you know what? Like
That's
that people
okay.
say, right? Discovering that. So yeah, please tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, well, when COVID hit, I mean, as everyone knows, it was a challenging time for, I think, everyone. But that's also kind of when my eating disorder started to take a turn for the worse again. But the like blessing in disguise was that it led me to Shira and Living Proof MN. And so I actually found her online support group that she would host every day at 6 p.m. And like it was the thing that I woke up for during COVID. And I was just like, I looked forward to 6 p.m. every single night because, you know, I felt like I was connecting with these people and it felt so productive. Like as a group, it wasn't about people going around telling their sob stories. It was like so problem, like it was like problem solving oriented. So it's like people would come with a topic and we would talk about like how to get out of that, not like, you know, give each other reassurance essentially. And then, you know, at the time Shira was running a live-in program and she asked me if I wanted to come, and I decided to go, obviously. And I mean, the first few months was really tough, but you know, once I hit like month 3, like things just started to get a little bit smoother. I mean, it wasn't, definitely the first year was really tough, but I mean, the whole time I spent about 7 months in the program at Shira's live-in program. And oh my God, it was like a total game changer, and like nothing like any kind of treatment that I ever received. And I really feel like the piece of the puzzle that was missing was the peer support. And like, I mean, there was just something so much more like authentic about connecting to somebody who actually understood what I was going through. And it made me feel like, okay, yeah, I can get to the other side of this too. Um, so about in January last year was when I kind of started to come on and helping share a little bit more. And I started helping her with the live-in program, with the groups and all of that. And then over the summer or into the fall really is when we kind of shifted our gear to Beyond Rules recovery and shifted our focus more away from the live-in program and more towards education and support groups and all of that. So it's been really cool to, I mean, be with the program that helped me get to this place, because it's like I look back all the time on like how I was at the beginning and like where I'm at now and how like I act now compared to what I was doing back then. I mean, for example, I was terrified of the kitchen. I hated the kitchen. I never went in the kitchen when I
Really?
first got to Shira's. And now like I love to bake. I love to cook. Like if you ask Shira, like I will try anything. So, but I mean, it's just crazy that that was like my life at one point. Um, and so, I mean, I just felt so honored and blessed that I was able to find living proof. And now, I mean, Beyond Rules recovery, because it really led me to seeing like what I'm really passionate about. And like, I'm so passionate about like getting awareness out there for eating, about education for eating disorders and helping those struggling. And it also opened up a door for me like to really realize how much I love coaching gymnastics, because the way that I was coached, I mean, I had one really awesome coach who I adore to this day, but I had other coaches that really wreaked havoc on my self-esteem.
Mhm.
And so it's just made me realize like I could be just one coach, like for one kid, that if I could make an impact on one kid, like from developing an eating disorder in gymnastics, like I would be, my life is complete. But
Love that.
so, yeah. So, I mean, it's just been so eye-opening for me to see what I love to do.
That's so what's fun too is when Shira and I were talking and, you know, we said like Christmas just went by and I sat at the
Yeah.
Christmas table and I put whatever, you know, on my plate and I ate and I didn't have to worry about it. And I've been
I
like that for
know.
11 years and I'm going, but every time I sit down at Christmas, I realize all of those Christmases that scared the heck out of me and the ones during the time I was bulimic.
Yeah.
And this is such so lovely that again, what you're saying too, is how beautiful it is to even know where you're going, what you're going to be doing. My little sister was in gymnastics. I took it too. But she was really good at it compared to me. But it was good though, because I took cheerleading and the gymnastics came in handy going
Yeah.
with cheerleading.
Oh, definitely.
But in our time, you know, the eating disorders were not, and I'll say that they were either, if they were there, they were not recognized. I mean, my eating disorder started in 1980, and there really wasn't anything. So I really appreciate, you know, the Beyond Rules recovery and places like that, and people like you that are being able to talk to people, Tasha, about this, because I'm telling you, when I got it and I was trying to get information, oh, tons on anorexia, but nothing on bulimia.
Oh, for sure.
And as much as people will say, well, that's an eating disorder, each eating disorder has its own category. I cannot really connect with anorexia because although I went my 3 days without eating, I'm thinking I can't do that because
Yeah.
I love food. So it's all different relationships with food and how we
Yeah.
deal with them. So different people for different things.
Definitely.
But you being a gymnastic coach and taking that on, I think is really important. The other thing I wanted to say really quickly is I had a counselor that I absolutely loved when I was in my 20s and I was really getting good at, you know, overcoming my bulimia because my recovery was going really well. And then I got married and I moved. And so I lost her as never did I find someone like her again.
Yeah.
Just like you with your coach, right? And I thought,
Yes.
oh,
I know.
so
I know. It's like like the second that I moved away, well, when I started college really was when she stopped being my coach. And I went through a few different coaches in college and there's just no one. There was no one that could have that. I mean, she definitely, I've told her this so many times. I'm like, you are the reason why I stayed in the sport and why I got as far as I did and why I got to do college gymnastics is because you were one coach that believed in me. Out of the, probably had about 20 coaches throughout my career. Out of the 20 coaches, you were the one that actually believed in my ability. You believed in like just me in general. And it's just crazy, like how, like, yeah, she's just so awesome.
and that's nice that you kept that positive in you to keep going, even when you had the not so positive coaches.
Yeah.
And lucky that she was at the start because you
Yes.
probably would have given up way before.
Oh, yes,
So,
definitely.
very neat. I love that. Gymnastics is so beautiful to watch, really is. Skating too. I took skating as well.
Yes,
I didn't
I know.
excel in anything. I just took it, but I had fun.
I know. I mean, it was fun while I did it, but I don't think I really loved it. I hated, we would skate in the morning, like before school, and I hated getting up for that. And I think that's what really, really made me want to quit.
Yeah, that was me in swimming.
Yeah.
Getting up early in the morning and jumping in that cold pool. I did it, but
I know.
I didn't. People go, why don't you go in pools anymore? Why don't you swim? I go, because I was, sorry, I don't like to use the word traumatized, but it's a joke. But, you know, as a kid, I would jump in the pool, cold pool. No, I'm not a big swimmer anymore yet.
I
All
know.
my swimming lessons right to the end and diving
Yeah.
lessons, but no, water's not my best friend.
Yeah. It's kind of how I feel about the ice.
So, so tell us a little more, like, is there, you know, you were part of the program, you were the live-in, you guys are now doing, there's the online, so I really want our listeners to know more about that too. some of you, I know the Christmas holiday is over as it's sort of the 26th now as we're taping this. But there's still, that's the worst part of it. I get it, but there's still more to come. And we'd love to see as many people as possible next year sitting at a Christmas table or Hanukkah or whatever celebration that you're celebrating and be able to sit with your family. So if you can tell us more about what you're doing and how they can connect with you.
Definitely. Yeah. So right now we have online support groups that we offer 3 days a week. So Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. And the way that's one of our bigger things that we've been doing for, really since Shira started Living Proof, was online groups. And so that's one way. The other way is there's peer mentoring, and Shira actually does all of the peer mentoring right now. But that's been really successful in the past as well. And so those are our biggest things right now. I think that we've been doing, we are hoping this summer to start some recovery camps or recovery retreats to do in person here. So that will be really awesome once we get that going. And we have our education programs too. So, we really, one goal of ours for 2022 is to really try to get into as many schools as possible and, talk to educators, talk to counselors, try to talk to kids. We do pep rallies with the school and talk about self-confidence and body image and building that self-worth. So that's, one of our biggest goals is to really get education out there, especially in schools, because those teachers see those kids every single day and probably could be more, what if they're more educated, then they'd be able to see more.
Yeah, that's important. It's kind of interesting that you're talking about that, because I did write a book called How to Have Your Cake and Not Eat It All Too. And in that, I have a section where it does talk about it's for like teachers, parents, and coaches to, view the signs. Now, if you go up and talk to the person, they are going to deny it most often.
To the extreme, yep.
And probably try and hide it more, but there's some that won't. Some of them, you don't know, like you said, that one person, if you can help that one person. So if you notice, if these people, these coaches and teachers notice something and they bring up and they go, no, but they're not, one kid says, yes, that's that one child that you're helping.
I know. Right? And it's, like early intervention, they say, is just so important.
Yeah.
And we preach that too, because like the earlier you catch it, then the more likely you are to have a lasting recovery and, not go through the whole system of treatment out, in and out, and just, especially in adolescence, like kicking it before you go to college, is.
And that's huge, because you said college. I can't tell you how many people, it started, I was going to college, but I was living with my parents. It's not like that often be. But how many will say that, it might have started in high school, but college is where it really it went. And I'm going, wow, like that college word, it's just like, it comes up over and over again. So you're absolutely right. If you can catch it before, even before high school, but
I know it manifests
before they go to college.
Definitely. I know. College is just such a, it's the first time where people are really on their own. They're not having their parents cook.
Got a little bit of that freedom that spooks the heck out of you. And so as much as you love it, you're scared too at the same time. Go, whoa.
I know. And then there's like the idea of the freshman 15, and that scares people. I know that was a thought in my head when I went to college.
Interesting. This is lovely. I thank you so much. And so we're going to go forth with, I'm now going to ask you where, so you can give us the website and email if there's an email so the listeners can contact you. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. You can find us at www.beyondrulesrecovery.org. And then our email to reach out to would be info@beyondrulesrecovery.org.
Beautiful. I really appreciate your story and you telling us. And again, lovely to hear people that are in recovery and that are recovered, really, ultimately, because we say that, recovery is is doable. It's only if you feel that you're not going to recover fully that you will not recover fully. But when you know you will, you do.
Yes.
And it's a lovely place to be. Thanks again. I really
thank you so much.
Tasha, we'll be in touch, and it'd be lovely. In fact, the next time that we meet, we'll have you and Shira together. That'll be fun. And we'll do
that would be really fun.
Definitely to bring us up to date. And I really, if you're gonna, if the camps do come, hopefully this whole COVID thing goes away. Definitely, I'd love to have you both on to discuss that and give our listeners some more information about it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Again, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit me at bleepbulimia.com.